we as rational humans, can we find room in our thinking for any explanation of what's happened in history that's outside of space, time, matter, physics, and chemistry? Or is history purely naturalistic? In other words, is there anything at play in the universe outside of the stuff we can see, outside of the stuff we can somehow measure with science? Do we have just brains that we can measure and analyze and observe? Or do we have immaterial minds in addition to our brain? If we do, then there's something, this is why we call this the problem of mind, that's outside of the natural realm. So I think that the flood matters because it's really easy for people to point to it and say, well, if you believe this nonsense, then you're just not rational to begin with. We need to ask ourselves the question, is this reasonable? Could this have happened in history? Is there a God who could create everything in the universe from nothing? Genesis 1 is the bigger problem, okay?
Right.
But not later on in Genesis where we're describing Noah's Ark. The bigger issue is if there's a personal being who could blink everything into existence from nothing, then stories like the Ark suddenly come out of the impossibly fiction category to possibly to reasonable, not just possible, but to be the most reason. Because again, that's a small potato miracle. If there's a God who's powerful enough to blink everything into existence from nothing, there's nothing in the New Testament that even comes close to that. There's nothing in the Old Testament that comes close to that. After that,
Right.
everything is a secondary level miracle if there's a being out there that can do the first thing. I've written in several books about this step-by-step process I took. If there is no God, then there is no Christian God. And there's no point in reading Christian scripture, and saying it came from the mind of the Christian God, because there's no God to begin with. So for me, it came back to, do I have good reason to believe that God exists? And so I've written about this in a book called God's Crime Scene. But the point here is, I think that the idea of an all-powerful being that stands outside of space, time, and matter, that is the cause of all space, time, of matter, is the best explanation for a universe that has a beginning, that has the appearance, and this is not controversial amongst even atheists, the appearance of fine-tuning, that also is the source of life from non-life. And how does that begin, especially when it's written in code and DNA? It is
Right.
also the reason why biology, this is also not controversial even for atheists, why biology appears to be designed, why we have minds in addition to brains, why we have the ability to act freely. We're not limited by the physical constructs of an entirely physical, deterministic universe where our brain comes from. And also we have an objective standard, which we cannot create moral truths. They just exist. And the question is, from what mind do moral obligations between beings come from? And finally, is there a standard of righteousness that is not merely a matter of opinion, even groupthink? Is there a standard of a straight line, as C.S. Lewis always used to say, that helps us identify when we see a crooked line? If there isn't an objective standard of righteousness, then there is no objective evil in the world, but all of us would point to something and say, no, that's not my opinion, that's just evil. Here's my
Right.
point. If you're going to make a case for how those 8 things exist in the universe, I do think that the best explanation is God. Now, the only question is, which one? Of all the ways, maybe none of them. Of all the ways we've described God historically, which is the most reasonable inference from the evidence? And that's what was left to me. Now, that's going to come down to the reliability of the eyewitness accounts. And I focused originally on just the New Testament. Why? Because there's enough manuscript evidence that's recent enough that we can trace the transmission of the documents. You cannot do this for the Old Testament, by the way. They're just too ancient.
Right.
But you can do it for the New Testament, and there's a central figure in the New Testament named Jesus of Nazareth who claimed to believe the things that were in the Old Testament, including Noah, including Jonah, including a lot of other things that we would say are just silly fables. And I think, how do we demonstrate that the Old Testament is reliable? By first demonstrating that the New Testament is reliable. And then because we have a figure in that New Testament who we reliably believe rose from the grave, we trust his authority. And so if you believe the New Testament is true, you get the Old Testament thrown in for free because Jesus is going to commend it to us. So I think in the end, that's kind of the process I took. But the question we have is, did this guy Jesus come out of the grave? I mean, no, hold on. Is the resurrection a reasonable inference from the evidence? Because if it is, this is now this changes everything. Because this would mean that he's something other than human. By the way, if you read through the Gospel of John, I'm going through this right now with my adult kids. We go through 3 verses a day. And oh my goodness, the number of places in the Gospel of John that Jesus is so clear to a first century audience anyway,
Right.
that he is making claims of deity is remarkable. So the question is, does he have? So that's why I say it's on the authority of Jesus, not the authority of just an ancient, well-written guy. I like Jesus, because you could say, well, then is Josephus equally as authoritative? No, no one is as authoritative as Jesus, because he's the only one who demonstrates his divinity by walking out of the grave. So that's why I had to settle that one first. Also, by the way, was it within Jesus' power to say something that would clarify? Now, you guys have been told this story. Let me use it to teach you a lesson. He could easily have said something like that. Of course, he doesn't do that. He speaks as though these events are factually true, historically true. Just as, in other words, you could just say, because he often will say, you've heard it said,
Right.
which typically tells you this is a saying, a popular colloquialism. That's not what he says when he talks about Old Testament stuff. He is actually referring to things as though these were, when I say Old Testament stuff, I mean Old Testament events. So I think in the end, I would favor the reason why the first investigation I had to do was, number one, is there a God? And then which of these ancient manuscripts could I actually test under the 4 criteria that you test eyewitnesses, right? Were they really there to see what they said they saw? Have they changed their story over time? Do they have could they be corroborated even to some kind of touch point corroboration? And finally, do they have a reason to lie to me? I could only do that kind of a test on the New Testament, but it then presented me with a guy who rose from the grave, and that kind of starts to validate all the other stuff.